this conversation about scalability and how to think about whether or not some set of projects are unique to a given institution or are replicable, in a region, in a state, and so on for those communities is something that we potentially could have collectively some impact on the thinking about these activities. But it's really exciting. Thank you both for a great presentation. Look forward to seeing the demos during the sessions. I had an opportunity a couple of years ago to go to Ontario and give a talk at the Orion annual meeting, and was really struck by how thoughtful and strategic Orion has been in their engagement strategies across a number of communities. At that particular meeting, we were really talking about visual arts and some of the work that some of their institutions for visual arts have been doing in Ontario. But we're delighted today to have David Coe from the Orion Network to come and talk to us a little bit about what's going on in Ontario. So, David, thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. As Louis has mentioned, my name is David Coe, and I'm the Senior Director at Orano, responsible for partnerships and strategic alliances. Someone else from Orano is here with me today, and I'd like to take 2 seconds and point out that Phil Baker, who is the President and CEO of Orano, and also really the founder of the Orion Network. It was through his efforts over many, many years in terms of getting it off the ground, getting it funded, and seeing it come to fruition. So if you have any questions, feel free to talk to Phil after my presentation as well. What I'm going to do today is take about 20 minutes and sort of give you some background information on who we are, on sort of where the network is at currently, and some of the services that we offer. Now,
I just want to make sure that it's something if it bothers you.
No. Thank you.
Sorry.
As I was saying, so I'm going to take about 20 minutes, talk about some of the services we offer. Many of the services I'm going to talk about are probably services that most research and education networks offer and may be familiar to you. I also want to take some time to talk about some new value-added services, some new initiatives that we are currently working on. I joined Orano about 6 months ago, and really spent a lot of time sort of traveling throughout the province, talking to researchers, and a common statement that I hear from CIOs and researchers at university is, now that I have this broadband network connected to us, what can I do, or what should I be doing? So we started to address the what part with many of our customers. Then I'm going to spend the last 10 minutes looking at success stories. Some of the things that some of our members have done using the Orion network. Because I've been with the company for 6 months, I still need to rely on my notes. So I apologize in advance if you see me sort of looking at certain things. Before I talk about the Orion network, I thought it might be worthwhile for those of you in the audience who may not be as familiar with Ontario and who we are, just to provide you with some context. While we are not the largest province in Ontario in terms of geographic size, we are certainly the largest in terms of population and GDP. We account for about 40% of the population of Canada and 40% of the GDP of the country as well. post-secondary educational institutions in Ontario are publicly funded. There are no private educational institutions, certainly no private post-secondary educational institutions. There are, I know it says 19 out there, but there are actually 20 universities in Ontario, 24 colleges, both of which, when you combine them, represents well over 100 campuses in total. In the province of Ontario, there are 72 school boards, which represents almost, I believe, close to 5,000 individual schools. In terms of the total population of students from K-20 in Ontario, we're pretty much close to 3 million students. That gives you the size sort of as to the type of demographics and numbers that we have to deal with. What I'm going to do now is talk a bit about the Orion network. It is a relatively young network. It was launched in 2004, so it's been in existence for 4 years. It's throughout the whole province. The footprint is approximately 3,500 miles. So I believe, from a size perspective, it is one of the larger R&E networks in North America. And we connect all of the 20 universities in Ontario, 21 of the 24 colleges, 15 of the 72 school boards. One of our biggest challenges in Ontario is that the funding for the local group is not subsidized by the government. So if you are a school board and you wish to connect to the Orion network, it comes out of your own budget, your capital budget, or your operating budget. And similar to funding pressures, that every single school board has in North America, it's not on the high up on the list of priorities for most school boards to make that type of investments. Now, having said that, the 15 school boards that are on the Orion network do represent about 50% of the educators and K-12 students in Ontario. What else can I tell you? In terms of the population that is linked on to the Orion network, currently about 75,000 researchers and educators are connected, and close to 1 million students are connected to the Orion network as well. Oh, sorry, can you go back? There's one last point that I wanted to make. One last point which I did want to make is that we do connect to other research networks. So if you look down below, right over here, the white arrows, we do connect to Merit in Michigan directly. We also connect directly to NYSERNet in the state of New York. And we connect to our sister network called RISC in the province of Quebec as well. We also connect to, Canada's Internet2, which is called Canarie. It's our national research and education network. It is similar to Internet2 in some respects, but in many, many respects, it is not the same as Internet2 as well. So we are one of 12 regional networks across the country that connects to Canarie, and through Canarie, we interconnect with Internet2 and other national research networks. Next, please. In terms of the services which we offer, they are fairly standard in terms of some of our current services. We provide national and global IP routes to all of our members. And there are approximately 80 members on the Orion network currently. We offer your typical optical data transport services through 22 hops throughout the province. IP4, multicast, services which we offer. Like most research and education networks, we offer specialized telecommunication services as well, such as optical bypass, Ethernet circuits, and VLANs, virtual LANs. Many of the K-12 school boards find the virtual LANs very attractive, particularly if you are located in a remote part of Ontario. It gives them the ability to access commodity internet from an urban service provider that they otherwise would not have been able to get. So in many respects, we provide the transport for a lot of these schools to get to very inexpensive ISP providers. This is a part that I'm very excited about. Between 2004 and 2008, we spent the better part of 4 years building out the network, making sure that it's stable, that it works, connecting the relevant institutions to the network. Now we're into sort of phase 2, what we call phase 2, which is the what can I do with the network phase. So to that extent, we're looking at developing a whole suite of value-added services. So we spent the better part of the last few months touring around the province, talking to a lot of our customers and asking them sort of what their needs are, what are some of their challenges. And I'm going to talk briefly about some of the initiatives that we have on the go right now. The first one is online networking and collaboration. If you can imagine sort of a mashup between Facebook and online collaboration services, we're building this private service where researchers and educators can come together privately, find each other, share knowledge, and collaborate with each other. In many respects, it's very much similar to Muse, to Internet2, or Janet collaborate in the UK as well. So if you are a researcher, you can create your own profile. You can upload all of your publications, the results of your research, your current research. You can search for someone else's profile based on expertise, based on location, based on a whole variety of different factors. Once you find the people who you want to collaborate with, you can work with them through text, through video, through different forms of communication, and create documentation within that session from scratch, save it, and then share it. You will also have access to internal and external data repositories as well. So it's a truly all-encompassing private online collaboration service. Web conferencing is something else that we're looking at creating as a distinct service that will run on the Orion network. So it's no different in concepts than some of the other services on the marketplace, like WebEx or NetMeeting, things of that nature. The only difference is that it will run on the Orion network and provide a very high quality experience for the users. Online backup and storage is something that a lot of institutions have challenges with. As you all know, the amount of digital content that is being created grows at an exponential rate. The cost of acquiring storage isn't the issue. The issue is the cost of real estate. If you are a university located in an urban center like Toronto, for example, where real estate is very, very expensive, the cost of buying new servers and getting the real estate to store them in can be quite expensive. In addition, the operating and maintenance cost is also quite high. So we're looking at working with our members to create a shared service whereby multiple universities and school boards and so forth can share a service that's managed by Orion. The last one that I want to talk about is IPTV. This is something that's very exciting for us. we recently hosted an IPTV workshop, and we had over 150 people attend the workshop. And the conclusion of that workshop was that we need to create such a service. What it is going to be a service that allows students from K to 20 to create their own content and upload it onto the Orion IPTV service and disseminate it to other students throughout the province. So we're very excited about that. We think it will be a great opportunity for students to share their creative talent with everyone else. I'm not going to talk too much about this. I think I've talked a bit about sort of how we reach out to our community of users. We have your typical programs that a lot of art research and education networks use. We have lunch and learns, whereby we go out and we talk about the network itself and its benefits, and we bring with us researchers who have used the network to create success and have them share their experiences with the audience. We hold focus groups with different segments of the user community, whereby we sit down with 4, 5, 6, 7 educators or researchers, and we have a 2-hour powwow session with them where we get to really understand what they do, how they do it on a day-to-day basis, and what are some of the day-to-day challenges. And then we go away and we try to be creative and we try to solve some of those issues and challenges. We don't always have the right answers, but quite often sometimes we come up with some pretty creative ways to help them as well. What I'm going to do now is spend about 10 minutes going through different success stories. These could be one-time initiatives, or it could be ongoing projects that our members have undertaken using the Orion network. First one is called ABLE. It stands for Advanced Broadband Enabled Learning. And it's really a joint initiative between York University and the York Region School Board. And in essence, what it is that it's a program to introduce broadband learning into the classroom, but the program is targeted at teachers. It is focused on helping teachers to do just that, giving them the knowledge, the training which they need in order to be able to bring broadband-based initiative into their classroom with confidence, knowing what the outcomes should be. And the Orion network has been used to deliver that type of training to not only to the teachers, but to bring the actual curriculum itself into the classroom. I have a couple of testimonials from students, and I don't think the video portion works, but I think the audio portion is working. So James, if you can click on that one, that'd be great.
When we're not intrigued enough, it's harder to comprehend, I find. Like we're not interested because our mind just goes everywhere, right? So I guess by using technology and pictures and videos and all that media stuff, it'll help because we won't be so bored. It'll be like interesting.
the last one is the bottom one.
If we don't learn how to read all that digital stuff, then what's going to happen in the future? How are we going to be experts like all the other people?
So these are direct, obviously, commentary from the students who have experienced the programs put on by ABLE, and it's encouraging that their level of engagement has gone up through the use of broadband content. The other success story that I want to talk about is a live surgery program which we enable for a bunch of grade 12 students located in northern Ontario. actually is part of the province that sort of borders the state of Minnesota. It's in a fairly remote part of the province. And they wanted to participate in a live surgery that was being put on by COSI, which is based in Columbus, Ohio. I believe it's the Science Center that's based in Columbus, Ohio. So we provided the connectivity that allowed them to experience a live knee surgery and interact with the surgeons and other students from around the country as well. This is one of my favorite. The Northern Ontario School of Medicine is a recent school. It was established in 2005. It's really a joint venture between two universities in Northern Ontario, based in Thunder Bay and Sudbury. And those schools, those universities are 1,200 kilometers apart. And the School of Medicine is a 4-year typical undergraduate med school curriculum. The only difference is that it's a lot of the program is delivered through broadband technology. So this program would not have been able to get off the ground without the presence of the Orion network. And in this one instance, they were able to work in a collaborative way with an application called I2fmm08 based in Stanford. And I2fmm08 is a virtual cadaver-based anatomy instruction program that allows students to literally work with a virtual cadaver and do so with other students from around the country as well. So the network was able to make that happen. Now, when we think of applications with research networks and education networks, quite often we think about big science, spectrometer, microscopes, and things of that nature. Well, in this one instance, this was through visual arts. The University of Waterloo and Bradley University in Illinois wanted to put on a one-act play, but they wanted to do it virtually. They wanted to demonstrate the power of video conferencing over fiber optic networks like Orion. So a couple of years ago, they were able to put on an actual play with performers based in different cities, interacting and sharing a common stage. So once again, that was done through the power of the Orion network. Ryerson University is one of the largest media universities in Canada. They are one of the founding members of CityGrid. For those of you who are not familiar with CityGrid, CityGrid is an international nonprofit consortium. It consists of many research labs from around the world. And their mandate is to use grid technologies to develop new methods and tools for creating, editing, and transmitting digital movies around the world. So through the Orion network, Ryerson University is able to participate in that initiative. And lastly, this is an interesting program. It's actually an online, it's a master's degree program in computer gaming. But what's very unique about it is that it is being, the degree is actually granted by the University of Alberta, Dudley in Scotland. And it is taught, however, in Algoma University, which is based in Sault Ste. Marie. Now, I'm not sure how far the distance is from Sault Ste. Marie to Scotland, but it's quite far. So using the Orion network, students are actually able to participate in classrooms via video conferencing and earn their 2-year degree using the Orion network.
Is that with Aberdeen?
Yes. No, it's Alberta.
Alberta,
Yeah.
foot of the tape.
Yes. So, so that's my presentation. Hopefully, I've been able to give you sort of a primer on what's been going on at the Orion network in Ontario. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Questions, Ben?
You brought up the social networking tool that you're working on putting
Yes.
together. How are you reconciling, and I think probably a lot of us are struggling with this, the competing social networking tools and such that a lot of folks don't, there's but so much time in a day in multiple social networks, and to build a critical mass
Correct.
around the one that you're developing such that it really gets the level.
Yeah, we sort of looked at that. I mean, we
Uh-huh.
said there's countless social networks on the market currently right now. So I think the best way to describe it is to sort of walk you through our process of getting to that point. Right off the bat, we said we have to, whatever we create in terms of value-add services, we have to create a partnership with our members. So rather than sort of build something in isolation and then 6 months later spring it, on the members and say, here it is, use it. What we did was we actually formed working groups with our community of users, and we said to them, okay, you've told us through our research that you need this online collaboration service. Well, help us define what the requirements are. Tell us what you aren't getting from a LinkedIn or a Facebook, or even some of the research-based networks that are sort of emerging. And tell us what we would like to see in a service that appeals to you. So we went through a 3-4 month process of really working with this working group, working with researchers, working with the actual users themselves, and defining the features that they would like to see in this service. So we're launching the pilot, the beta, in January. We've already recruited a handful of researchers who have research projects that requires them to work in a collaborative way beyond their boundaries, beyond their normal boundaries. So we're interested to see in January sort of what happens, what is the feedback once they actually get their hands dirty and start using it. But so far we've gotten some fairly good feedback on what it looks like.
One of your slides you mentioned focus groups and users, working with users in eight different
Segments. So yeah, they are. We historically, I think we, starting in 2004, we've always treated our community as one big one, or even two big ones. We have research and we have education, right? And from my perspective, I sort of look at that and say, well, that can't be because a researcher in astronomy has different needs, different issues than a researcher studying social science. An educator teaching at college level has different challenges than a grade 8 teacher. So the idea of lumping them into sort of large groups wasn't something that I was comfortable with. So what we've done is that we've segmented the community into 8 distinct segments and say, well, let's learn as much as we can about each of these 8 segments. Let's go out and talk to them and treat them as distinct segments, and let's see what comes out of that. If it's the same across the board, well, that's great. And we haven't lost anything. But if my thesis is correct, and I think it's going to be different, then great. We've actually gained a lot of knowledge about how, what we could be doing to make their online experience with the research network that much better. And the other issue as well, I'm not sure whether it's with your networks, but certainly with us, is that because on our networks, member institutions have to pay an annual fee. So So that comes out of someone's operating budget. And it usually comes out of the CIO's office. Because the CIO is paying for connectivity for Orion, they are the squeaky wheel. So they talk to us the most. They yell the loudest. So historically what we've done is we've addressed the needs of the CIO in his office or her office. But those needs are primarily institutional needs. They're not necessarily the specific needs of a researcher or an educator. So a CIO may have huge challenges like storage. You know, I need you guys to help me with online data storage. It's very expensive and everything else. But for the researcher, well, how does that necessarily help the researcher or help the grade 8 teacher? I'm not sure. So what we wanted to do was get behind the CIO and talk to their customers and see what their challenges are.
Did you mention, Dave, some examples of your segments?
Yeah, so the segments are, if I can remember, CIO, hard science researchers, social science researchers, applied researchers at the college level, because the type of research that college faculty undertake in Ontario is quite different than the type of research that university-based researchers would undertake. Educators, we segmented that into educators at the post-secondary higher learning, and educators at the K-12. And then we also segmented students. The largest base of potential users for any research network, research education network, are the students, the millions of students that are out there. But no one has ever talked to them. No one has ever asked them, what do you want to see? Have you ever even, do you know anything about research networks? And these are the people that, small percentage of them will become the future researchers. So we want to talk to them as well. So we segment them into students that are sort of in the K-12, students in the higher learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe Dave and Phil, sometime you can come back and talk a little bit more about what you've learned in their sort of study of various markets. I know we've had in the past Phil and Sajewski from Saskatchewan, and Mike Rybick and some of his group from BCNet, and I think there's a huge opportunity for those of us in the States to engage and learn from our Canadian colleagues. So I was struck by the students on this video. Unlike Jennifer, who has a baby and wants to spend more time at home, we have 5 teenage girls, and I like to spend more time away from them. so I'm looking for more things.
Careful, Louis. I've got that on tape. Blackmail
outside the home. So we're going to let's take a little break for until 10:25, and come back promptly then. Thanks.